Okay, so welcome to Unit 4. It's about linear equations. It's about graphing lines. We're going to graph lines in this unit. We're going to look at the characteristics of the parts of the equations, or I suppose the properties of the equations and the properties of the lines in very basic ways. And so what we'll be doing is graphing lines using three methods in this unit. You could also say about four, but we'll keep to the main three, which is the first one is you're given a table of values or a table of points, and you graph the line using those table of points. We will be using the supports of the graphing calculator in this unit. The second method is to use the x and y intercepts. The third method is to use the slope and y-intercepts. So we'll need to know certain properties in order to be able to complete these tasks and approach these tasks. But the first thing I want to just go over with you, just the basic forms that linear equations come in. So the basic, there's three forms, but we're going to focus on two forms. We're going to focus on the standard form of linear equations, and we will also focus on the slope intercept form of not standard, of linear equations. So what's great about these two forms? Well, the standard form it looks like this. You have some number times x plus some number b times y, and that sum equals some constant c. So what we're going to do is to have to often transition back and forth between standard form and slope intercept form. Now we've already gone over how to solve for an additional variable when there's more than one in an algebraic expression. Now slope intercept form says that all y values equals the slope m times x plus the y-intercept b. Okay? So we're going to get to a point where we're able to navigate back and forth between these two equations, as well as be able to identify certain things regarding these equations. So if I were going to combine the two equations, if I wanted to combine these two equations, what would it look like? What would the new y look like? Y would equal negative let's get the right color here, negative the fraction a over b plus c divided by b. Now, what equals what? Well, here this slope is going to be the same as negative a over b. This the y-intercept here is going to be the same as big C over big B. So we may use this method to transition back and forth between equations, but we won't specifically focus on that because we know how to solve for y. So what we're going to do is going to use our graphing calculators. I'm going to complete task 1, 2, and 3 with you, definitely, and possibly 4, 5, and 6 on your own. Okay? So first, the thing we need to do is to read the directions. So it's about creating a table of x and y values. We're going to solve each of the following equations for y. In other words, get y by itself. So the first thing we like to do is highlight our y term. If the y is by itself, we can proceed to use our graphing calculator. So what we're going to do is press y equals, insert the function 2x plus 2, and then press second graph to go to the table. In between that, we will look at the actual graph. Okay? So, going to my graphing calculator, I go to y equals, I clear everything out, I press 2x plus 2, and I want to trace it, look at it. It's a straight line with a domain of all real numbers and the range of all real numbers. And then I'm going to go to the table. Okay, and here's my table of values. I'm taking a screenshot of that, and I'm just going to pop it over and put it in my answers. And while we're waiting for that, look at the second problem, number 2. You should make sure you write these down. There's my x and y values. Okay? Now, number 2, just looking at it, and I'm going to highlight my y term, because I need to know, do I need to solve for y? And it's true. So we're going to follow the directions that we've used in the past for solving for y. First thing, we need to check, do I need to distribute on the left or combine like terms on the left? Do I need to distribute or combine like terms on the right? And no, we do not. So next, move the x term or the number term added or subtracted to y. I have an x term added or subtracted, so I'm going to subtract 4x on both sides of this equation, this equal sign. These go away, y comes down, equals 10 minus 4x. Next step, is there a coefficient of y? There is not, so I can circle my answer. Then I go to my graphing calculator, go back to y equals, clear the equation that's out in there out, write 10 minus 4x. And there's my equation. Here's my table of values. I'm going to go down a table a little bit and pick those values. Okay? Take a screenshot. And pop it over on my table. Okay? And while I'm doing that, I will be looking at my next problem. And it looks like I have 2x minus y equals 8. So I'm going to go through this with you. So I'm gonna first highlight my y term in the process of solving for y. Solving for y here. Okay, now I'm going to move the x term, so minus 2x on both sides. What comes down? Negative y equals 8. And perhaps you noticed that there's a negative in front of y. How do we get rid of the negative? Well, just realize that there's a 1 that goes in front of a variable when there's a negative. Okay? And how do we get rid of this? It makes it easier if we divide each term by negative 1. And the signs of the terms change. I get negative 8 plus 2x. Here's the equation that I put in my graphing calculator to get my table of values. So, come over here, go to y equals, clear what's in there out, write negative 8 plus 2x. Press second graph for table. Take a screenshot, print screen. And there's my table. So I'll paste it in here for us. Let's go back over here. Okay. All right. Moving on. Next part, 4, 5, and 6. So I really want you to be able to do these on your own. I will do number, let's see which one is the best to do. Let's do number 6, and then you do 4 and 5 on your own. So number 6, I'm just going to rewrite it. Makes it easier to see. 6x plus 4y equals 4. Now we are solving for this this variable term. So first, I'm going to move the x term to the other side of the equal sign. 4y comes down, equals 4 minus 6x. Then I divide each term by 4. Get y equals 1 minus 3 over 2 times x. And this is the equation I'm going to put in my calculator. Now here's the thing I want you to do. I want you to avoid fractions. But first, let's see how to put this into your graphing calculator, especially considering sometimes you can't put fractions in by typing in alpha window number 1. So first I'm going to write 1. And this is what I want you to do with fractions, so we're always careful. We say subtract parentheses 3 divided by, or 3/2, close the parentheses, and x. Make sure you're bringing the x. Then you press second graph. Sorry, I pressed the graph. Second graph. Second graph. There we go. So I'm going to not use the ones with decimals. So I'm going to just scratch them out. So I won't be using -1. I won't be using when x equals 1 or any odd combination of these points. So what I want is 0, 1, 2, -2, 4, -5. So 0, 1, 2, -2, 4, -5. And there's a reason why we only want to capture whole numbers. You'll see this as you begin graphing these equations. And we'll refer back to it, or I will refer back to it as we move through these lessons. Go ahead and finish number 6, complete the table, complete 4 and 5, and move ahead when you're ready. Now, the last 2 problems in this this section involve graphing the equations. So technically, you should be able to get your table of values at this point. What I want to review is to make sure that you are able to graph the points when you find a table of values. 3 processes going on here. So, the directions. Graphing equations. Solve each of the following equations for y. Fill in the values on the table. Then, graph the points and connect them to make the line. It should be completely straight. You put arrows at both ends because these lines continue forever. We already said it over and over again. The domain of all straight lines is all real numbers. The range of all straight lines is all real numbers. Now, first we're going to check, is the y value, is the y number, y by itself? It is. So the equation I'm going to put into my graphing calculator is 2x minus 3. So I go to my graphing calculator, go to y equals, clear out what's in there. I'm going to put in 2x minus 3. Then I go to second graph to get the table. There's my table of values. So I'm going to screenshot it. You should be writing it down. And then I'm going to go through each table, each set of points, and graph the points. So screenshot comes up here. I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger for myself here. All right. Now, when you're graphing a table of values, remember that you're going left and right for your x values and up and down for the y. So I'm going to go for -1, -5, left 1. Let's make that a purple so we can see it a little bit clearer. So left 1, down 5. Left 1, down 5 units. Okay, there's my first point. Next point, I don't go anywhere. I don't go left or right. I just go down 3. So down 3. Here's my next point. Next set, right 1, down 1. Right 1, down 1. Next set, right 2, up 1. Right 2, up 1. Next point. Right 3, up 3. Right 3, up 3. Okay. Right 4, up 5. Right 4, up 5. Oh, didn't quite get that correct. Here we go. Let's correct that. Here we go. There's 1 point. Right 4, up 5. Last set of points, 5, right 5, up 7. Right 5, up 7. Let's see, 5, up 7. So if I'm going to graph this equation, this line, I mean, let's find me a line and let's graph it. Okay, here's my line going through all points, and I said before that we like arrows at the end of this line. So here's my arrows. Okay, other important things on this line, I want you to go ahead and circle the y-intercept. Here's the x-intercept. We're going to circle the y-intercept, and we're going to circle the x-intercept. So the x-intercept is in red. The y-intercept is in blue. These are the points, critical points, where the line crosses an axis. So the y-intercept is the one where the y-axis is being crossed, and the x is the intercept where the x-axis is being crossed. So we'll discover more about that. The last thing I want you to do is to name your line, and you have to ask the question, how do I find the name of a line? Your line's name is the equation itself. So the line's name here equals y equals 2x minus 3. This is the name of the line. This is the name of the function. I hope you have a good day. Complete all of the tasks. Do the homework on page 11 and 12. 11 and 12, which involves making sure the equation is solved for y. It involves creating a table of values. It involves using those table of values to graph the line itself. Please also make sure that you label the line, and have a good day.